Hi, everyone. Nate Smith here today. I got a call here from Charlie, who's got some updates here today on the EVER.V project, specifically the Golden Line target. He let me know that he's been collecting some of the older historical information for presentation and to go over some of the updates coming into this year's season. So, yeah, welcome back there, Charlie. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, you bet, Nate. Happy to. Yeah, just looking at some of the old data that we cooked up in 2022 when we were going to go back and drill, but just mob cost and how much drilling we could get done with $1 million just wasn't a good idea. So we parked it and didn't think we'd park it for this many years, but here we are. And I just thought, just showing some of that stuff for that period, for the golden lion, the gold silver part of it first, and then revisiting the copper, just pulled together some other figures just to emphasize, what that's all about and the fact that it really is valid data up in the north. So just a couple of things, and got a couple short PowerPoints that I could just sing through.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's a whole generation of gold investors here now looking and revisiting the area. So I think it's great that the project has existing data, and thanks again for collecting it. It's been yeah, a little bit of a challenge there. I was able to go through that 43-101 you've made available and dig through all of the old news releases. I encourage any other investor out there too to go through the 2019 to now level of releases just to catch up to speed. But looking forward to seeing what you have here, Charlie. So yeah, what do you got?
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Should be the share screen button there, bottom middle.
Okay, yeah, let's maybe start with the gold silver thing, but I'll also go into the copper thing after that. They're separate PowerPoints. So why don't we start with this one? Let's see if I can just rip it from this current slide. Can you see that?
Yep, that's coming up now.
Yeah, this is from our our presentation that should be on the web, and it just shows Taylor Quinn's map. He's the master's student that was working on it, and it kind of focuses on the GL1 zone, which is where most of the drilling by Newmont in '84 was done, and then we followed it up with some drilling in 2020 and 2021. So. You can see that with the A, B, and BA and all that on there. That's not the sections I'm going to show. I'm just going to show kind of the extent of the strike that we kind of prepped in 2022 to go in there and do that work in 2022 after the 2021 drilling. So, going to look at that, start with a plan map. So, what you see here, is basically zoomed in on that area I was kind of circling with my mouse right in there. So, maybe a bit farther out like that. So, what we've done there is hand contoured the gold geochem along that zone, and where you see the thrust fault, the line with the barbs on it, and all those letters, A, C, D, E, F, B, G, et cetera. Those were all sections that we kind of plotted up. And that's basically what, more or less the idea of what we're going to go and plan to do for the drilling this year. See this big, long gold geochem anomaly look great. That's the one that kind of duped me. These are my holes I put across the damn thing. We didn't see anything there. Still kind of a mystery as to how that gold geochem got spread down there. It is down a drainage, but I had thought it was the real deal. But it turns out, Newmont had it right, and that's where they chase things out as along that trend. And you can see the spiky things on their old drill holes and on some of our drill holes. Anyway, we're going to start with a section looking through here. Which is what we drilled on the last holes at Golden Lion in 2021. So this looks a bit different than what we've got on our website, but it's basically the same thing. Those are the last three holes we drilled, one, two, and three. And this would be sort of something, back in 2022, we thought, shoot, we should have drilled another one down like this, or, maybe we could have stepped up the hill and just drilled across that way. But basically, the point we're making is if you drilled from northeast, which is on the right-hand side of the cross-section image, to the southwest, or steep right down it. You're going across the system and you're getting a much better idea of what this broad, multi tens of meters thick zone that dips to the northeast kind of looks like. You get a better idea of it, that as opposed to the way that Newmont mostly drilled it, which was in the other direction. This one hole, this uppermost hole, was a Newmont hole, and that was kind of the exception. For the most part, they drilled from southwest to northeast, with their drill holes from the bottom of the hill across it, and I don't think they really realized. That it was maybe the wrong way to drill. So I'm just going to step through some other sections. I think we're going to step maybe up to D here just to show, hey, there's the zone. We got that. Sometimes there's silver there sitting out on its own. Seems like me down in the footwall there. You see that elsewhere. And some good gold, spiky, yes, but over a broad zone. And we just want to step back and drill a fan like that, and we think we're going to nail this thing. So that's the case in both directions here. I'll show a few other ones. This is one in the guts of it. So this would be, I think it's G down here, section G or maybe H. And you can see they drilled a bunch of holes down this way like that. And if you're drilling down the zone, you might just miss it and you just don't get the high grade that kind of bounces around within that broad low grade halo that dips to the northeast. So we just want to step back and drill right across the thing and just systematically pound some holes in here. Lots of scale, lots open. These are for the most part about 50 meters apart, these sections, but all the way down this, 1.5, 2 kilometers worth of strike, even down here into the silver zone. So let's look at another one. Yeah, I think this is one that's kind of way up off the end here. There's little hints there, but I don't think they were too tight on it, drilled the wrong way for the most part. Gonna step back up the hill and just go right across the thing. So lots of scope there. Here's another one down this way. Where you just step back. I think this is I maybe. And look, if you drilled across the thing, you hit it well. Those were Newmont holes, but they drilled other ones just right down it, and of course you're just not getting the stuff. You can just miss it if it's dipping this way, and you're not right along the high grade part of it. So just step back, step up the hill, drill a fence of holes across that. And I think that was about it. But I think it's really important that even down, in this area here, you do the same thing. They were not right on top of it. They should step back up this way, drill across it. Lots of scope along this long trend. Okay, I'll shut that one down and let's see if I can open up one of the others.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, you're bringing that up. So it
Yeah.
looks like this year you're going to be targeting approximately that 1.3, 1.7 kilometer trend, and it's pretty
Yes.
much just a walk up and down the thrust fault. Is that right?
Yeah, that thrust fault kind of follows what is probably more of a, extensional zone. So it probably was a normal fault to start with. And the thrust fault, is a much later feature, probably in the mid-Cretaceous during, development of the fold belt in the Skeena fold belt to the west. So, just reactivated that weaker zone where the min came in, and yeah, we'll follow that. I think Alex has pointed out in a couple of talks that he's given as CEO of Evergold, on the fact that he's been able to track that out. He thinks he can track that out with resistivity, and I think he's right. We'll better
Hmm.
define that. That thrust. It's not well exposed there. That's part of the reason why Newmont didn't have that 100% success is just identifying exactly where that feature is. We'll put a little bit more work into that, mainly geophysics, and identify it and follow it out.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the opportunity here, I mean, I don't know what you guys are targeting, but say it's about 100 meters true width, 200 meters depth, 1.7 kilometers at half gram ton. I mean, we're talking greater than 1.5 million ounces here, targeting possibly this season. Is that what you're going after, or is
Well, I
that?
think we're going to drill out along that. I think we can get a
Mhm.
bit higher grade. I think it's I think in terms of bulk tonnage and I think our grade's a bit higher than that. And you look at the neighbors and they're getting some very nice grades. I think we can hit a sweet spot in there and that we want to hit something that's really going to move the market. Yeah. I mean, maybe the numbers you're talking about are real, but we're hopeful for something that's quite a bit better than that.
You're saying I'm being too conservative. Okay. But what about stretching further than that? We'll say the 1.8 kilometers there. In previous presentations, I think have shown that that structure looks like it stretches up about 2.5 more kilometers. Like, what's the prospectivity of tracking it further northwest and then along the southeast there?
I think that's a possibility. I think we'll do a bit more soil geochem. They did a fair amount. We did some. There's certainly some spots where you could do a bit more. Um, and yeah, I think that's a possibility too. But I think we'll focus the drilling on the stuff we know first and just walk that out. I mean, it is a gold system, so you don't want to step out too far too fast or yeah, the possibility is you could miss it.
Yeah, so this season very focused on just walking northwest and southeast from the. I think it's guided as 400 meters structure that's been modeled up to date here.
Yeah,
Market.
that's right. That's right. And there's other things to look at. There's the really super high grade silver that they found at surface, the Newmont guys, and I forget what the silver mineral was, but it was there's some spectacular stuff at Golden Lion, that way. Just really interesting stuff that merits follow up as well.
Okay, and then talk to me about like there hasn't been a lot of drill core released, but you guys are describing it as an epithermal, but I've been hearing question marks too about being possibly intermediate sulfide. What's your take on it and what you've hit to date?
Well, at Golden Lion and also elsewhere in the district, you do get polymetallic sulfides in that sort of vein breccia kind of stuff. And again, when you start seeing galena and sphalerite, so the lead and zinc sulfides, as well as a little bit of chalcopyrite, we see a little bit at Golden Lion, but others see a bit more. That's always a signal of, an intermediate sulfidation system. Maybe it has a bit more legs than, just a pure low sulfidation epithermal system that is often, kind of limited in its depth potential. So, there's always that. I don't think we fully worked that out, but we like that. And as we go deeper, it certainly hasn't got any less grade. So, we like to think that potential's there too.
Well, my mind goes to the copper showings here, and I think you're going to bring up the slides on it in a second. But my mind goes to, I mean, if you guys can keep walking this, what are the chances you walk it all the way back to the porphyry center that fed it?
Yeah, I don't know about that. We did drill one hole quite a ways to the southeast I think I can't remember if it was 2020 or 2021. I think 2020, and it was in a nice QSP altered zone, far to the southeast. So we did walk, in a sense, we walked it out that way. We didn't really walk. We kind of jumped way to the southeast and oh, there's lots of nice alteration there. There wasn't much geochem, but the boys were stoked on jumping out there. So they did. And that didn't turn up much sign of copper. But I think going north, it's better. You just go right to the top of the hill and you start picking up a lot of copper, just almost tens or maybe 100 meters to the north, and then over the brink, there's kind of a steep sided ridge just north of Golden Lion. We're at the foot of the hill. At the top of the hill, there's a steep side, and on the other side, there's lots of copper bearing veins and some pretty nice copper gold bearing veins and sort of scarny looking mineralization in the limey rocks. Even some dikes that cut an intrusive rock that have lots of veins and got me excited quite a while ago. We plugged a couple of holes there in 2020 and didn't have much luck, but it does suggest that you're pretty darn close to a copper system somewhere up, but mainly to the north, I think.
Yeah, something that's caught my eye, of course, as you guys have discussed, is the inline claims in the north, right? You've got what
Mhm.
looks like some very prospective copper targets up in that area, but previously you hadn't done any work there due to those inline claims, but with those consolidated now, that's where some of the focus of this year's field season is also going to be included.
Yeah, so I'll try sharing this other PowerPoint here. Let's see if this works. Yeah, does that come up?
Yeah, that's up now.
So this is again from from our previous um, slideshows, mainly that Alex put together. So it's just the intro side, and it is a nice district. Obviously, it's gotten really exciting. So I think every property all the way up the belt of the Tootagon, maybe not so much right around lawyers and stuff where there's more of the gold potential on the younger rocks, but Aurora, that A mark has really changed the game in the Tutagon, and Golden Lion has really great copper potential. We love it. So I'm just going to revisit some of these slides, and I've kind of just the only thing I've really added to the presentation is these inlier claims, and you can see in this image, which has the claim package kind of on the right. It actually doesn't show the south end or even quite all the way up to the north end, but it's sort of this brighter orange belt right through from the northwest up here down to the southeast down here, and it just shows all the compiled prospecting samples. So just, rock samples from, they might be copper bearing veins. Probably most of them are copper bearing veins, but some nice numbers coming out of those, in the percents and everything. And, I mean, I like that. You know that the guys are out there, the prospectors are trying to get the best grade they possibly can, but there are all kinds of surveys. Quite a bit here just north of Golden Lion. So that's the main zone, GL1 main zone we were talking about with the gold, silver right down on the bottom there. And then you go to the north over to this GL2 area, and there's lots of both gold and copper. And then, looking farther north, this is where these inlier claims were. And a couple min-file occurrences here, Claw on that one, and Copper King, I think it was called on that one. And one of them, I think it was Claw, maybe there was a drill hole. Lots of notes about native copper, chrysocolla. It doesn't sound 100% like a porphyry copper, maybe unless you're down down in South America, but could be a stratiform copper thing, but lots of copper around. And so we picked I think about 6 or 7 months ago, maybe a little more. We optioned these off Dick Billingsley, picked them up. So we have them 100% now. So there they are. I think, yeah, that's them just to emphasize them a bit. That's the inliers, and we stayed away from this area. I mean, picking these up was not in the cards back when we were first there. If you were doing work around somebody else's claims, you're just going to make them more valuable, and it's going to be hard to get them. So we just stayed away. Didn't even really look at the data. But after we optioned these, just to make some news, and I think it was timely when we optioned it, that we picked these things up, and then we looked at the data, and it's like this is not just the rock geochem, it's other things. Partly this what Alex picked up in the drill hole there, that was done in the 70s, and then zooming into that area again, here's these outlier or inliers that we picked up, so they're all ours now. This we compiled the stream sediment geochemistry. Others had done that previously, and they liked it. And it was just, wow, how did we overlook this? These are fantastic silt geochem numbers, stream sediment geochem, all across this thing in the hundreds. If you get something over 100, you're usually sitting up and taking notice. And these guys did systematic sampling, and they're high all the way up and down. All the way. There's a couple that are right around 2000 ppm copper, and in a stream said that's a very, very good number. And you see all these ones, these drainages coming off this ridge look good. All the way down this one. This area particularly looks good, and we have noted, and as have past operators noted, that there is some copper showings, but we got to go back in and look at this stuff and get down in the valleys even and see what do we see there. And I think, one of the things that I was a little concerned about was like, okay, when Alex compiled these things, is it all one survey and they had some contamination or something? I don't think so. Look at there's just off the claims, there's some quite a bit lower values. That's what you typically see is kind of a range. But across this broad area, some really nice stuff. And then the other side of it was Alex, I asked him about it, and it was like, no, I went and, compiled a bunch of assessment reports. And so these numbers come from more than one, several, in fact. So it looks more real. And so, one of the things I did, and I think this is something we needed to emphasize about this is, well, let's look, at the regional data and what does that tell us? So this is a map of the geology, Sustet Basin, Younger Rocks out here, no mineral occurrences out here because they blanket the prospective rocks, which are, Triassic or even Paleozoic, down to Jurassic. And this is this is the whole Tutagon. Doesn't show the claims, just all the occurrences. Various things in here. There's Shasta and the Aurora discoveries right in there. I guess things uh, like lawyers is kind of right in that area, and then you go north to Thesis's ground, and there's our ground up there, Golden Lion at south end, and this area we're talking about up here. So let's just look at what the government data tells us, because what I was thinking was let's see if those stream sets are real. Let's test that with a separate data set. And what I've done is just brought in at the same scale, this time showing the claim outlines and showing all the RGS samples. In this case, the government has a nice website they've done for us, and they classify all these samples, and you can switch on copper or moly or gold or whatever. And what we see here are just the copper numbers for all their regional geochemical samples. So they go around, they take a bigger sample from the drainages, but they take, way less samples and scatter them out all over the place. So, lawyers areas down here. This is Thesis's ground. There's Golden Lion up there. I think I've got claims outlined there. And, the other thing you see on here are these big orange and reddish kind of dots. The bigger and the brighter, the better. And all the ones that are sort of big and bright are all 90th percentile and up relative to the entire provincial database. So you're comparing these samples that they collect with a lot of other data sets that pretty much span the entire province. So anything that's big and bright, is probably a multi-hundred ppm sample, and you can see right up in that area I'm talking about, there's lots of high coppers in there. So I'll just zoom in a sec here in more detail, but they're all 90th percentile and higher. So yes, it validates what we're talking about. So now we've zoomed in. This is our claim outline again. There's those four inliers. There's the government data. 99th percentile one right there, just where we would want it. And there's only three samples they took. So, yeah, they do have lots of samples regionally, but this is the extent of them. Three within our claim boundary. There's other fairly high ones out here, moderately high there, moderately high down here. But this one in particular is a screamer, 99th percentile provincially. And these ones, I think that one's maybe a 96 and that one's a 91, something like that. So it does kind of validate our data set. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to show is like, yes, I think that potential is real. We're excited about it. Is it a porphyry? We don't really know. Is it a stratiform thing? Don't really know. It's not a deposit, obviously, but we are excited about this data and we're going to go check it out. And the other side of it is, that's a 5 kilometer trend. So this is a big area to evaluate. So lots of scope up there, lots of room for making hay. One last slide. This is one Alex prepared, and there's that claim outline on a oblique view, aerial view that just shows, the existing copper geochem. Up in that area where they're screaming stuff, there's just a bit of soil geochem, and it looks very good. This is Golden Lion main down here, and as I said, right beside it, the copper is picking up. So it is a copper play. GL2, we kind of recognize that. But just in the intrusive rocks that are thrust up onto the GL1 main, it's pretty interesting. And we'll be collaring some of our holes in that. I'm not suggesting that's a porphyry copper occurrence right there. I don't think we really saw that. We saw lots of veins with here and there with copper and gold in them. But pretty nice copper geochem there. Pretty nice shaping up in this area around the yellow dog. And these are the areas, again, foreshortened. There's a lot more room than this oblique view suggests up here, and very little soil geochem. So that's one of the things we'll go to. We'll do a bunch of soil geochem, see what we see up there.
Yeah, that's great, Charlie. Yeah, before we get into it, can you jump a couple slides back? I just had a question on what the underlying study was that was being presented, assuming mag.
Um,
Yeah,
keep
can you
going
pause?
back.
Yeah, yeah, pause there. Yeah. So what's the underlying on this one, or is that just
I
what?
think that's just topography.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
great,
so the brighter colors are higher.
gotcha.
Yeah, and that's just down in the valley.
Okay,
Um,
and then yeah, I think Alex touched on it. Maybe you can give an update. So I think you guys are talking about doing some mag on that as well, and then running some IP lines. Can you give any update there?
yeah, that's still in the planning stages. I think
Okay.
it's almost for sure we'll do airborne mag. I think from neighboring surveys, there's a little bit of coverage that way, but not complete. So we want to do that. And I think Alex, he being the geophysicist and having a lot of contact with the neighbors who he's done work for. I think, what we'd really like to do, especially with something this broad, this anomaly this broad, is to do some Z-Tem, something that looks deep, can it identify, some kind of a deeper rooted system up there. So that's something we do. And then we'll get some boots on the ground to do, to just give us a better sense for what the geology is up there. We know it's mainly Upper Triassic or older rocks. So, they're the right rocks to be in the Tekla group and maybe a little bit of A Sitka, the older stuff. There's certainly a pretty big carbonate, not far north of Golden Lion, Maine. So not sure if that's a Triassic carbonate or even a Paleozoic one, but farther north here, they're mainly volcanic rocks, and we think they're Tekla, so that's the right host. So we'll have the geos take a quick look at that, and then I think we'll do exactly how we do it. I don't know, but I think we'll do um, some boots on the ground kind of soil geochem because there hasn't been much done, and we'll start with a fairly wide space kind of an approach, and then tighten that up. We'll be able to get really quick feedback on that with XRF and. Yeah, and just take that from there. And then, if we see something that we really like or an anomaly coming together with the right, magnet signature and the soil geochem and the right geology, then we'll put Alex's boys to work doing some IP. Yeah, so lots of follow-up work plan against staged, but we'll get going with the airborne stuff as soon as we can.
Well, thanks for that overview there, Charlie. Great update on the historical work recompile, as well as your work into 2022. Yeah, maybe you can tell prospective investors about what's coming up in the next coming weeks and months into the drill program.
Yeah, you bet, Nate. No, thanks very much. And yeah, we're excited to get going. The months are ticking by really quick, and the middle of June is coming upon us here very, very shortly. So we're really stoked about getting up there and drilling. We'll probably drill, up to 6,000 meters, probably something between 4 and 6, but I would say closer to 6. So we're stoked about getting to the Golden Lion One main there, and just stepping out from the goodies we hit right at the end of 2021, using that basically that 2022 drill program with a little bit of fine tuning. So psyched to get up there and start putting the drill bit to work. At the same time, we're going to be working up the copper story even further and getting our systematic plans sorted out that way. We've contacted contractors. I think we got pretty much got them locked up, namely the drill, the helicopter, camp builder, that kind of thing. And I think we're going to be able to do it less expensively. We're closer. We can get the thesis is put the road to within 10K of our Golden Line property, so that'll should keep the cost down. Going to put a sort of bare bones camp in there, utilizing all the previous timbers, etc. So we're stoked on this year. I think it'll be a great year for us at Evergold.
Right on. Thanks, Charlie, for that. Yeah, so it's Evergold on the TSX Venture, EVER, or should we say maybe Evergold with a chance of copper? Thanks again, Charlie.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Nate.